Chapter 2. Where or When? It was unpleasant, like having the floor drop and feeling your stomach fall on an amusement park ride, coupled with a flashbulb going off in your face. Dusty was dizzy and stumbling forward, blue blobs of light floating in her vision, blinding her. She stopped and tried to stand still to regain herself, but she was unsteady and could not find her balance. She reached out, and her hands found the rock face. Dusty stumbled forward and leaned her body against the rock wall. She closed her eyes tight and waited for the blinding effects of the flash to subside. What just happened? That was awful, she thought as she began to calm down. Her ears, which had been filled with the sound of her beating heart and a sort of white noise, suddenly seemed to open up. She could hear the waterfall, a welcoming, calming sound, and she felt a little better. Dusty opened her eyes and blinked. Her vision was back. It wasn't perfect, but it was there. I've got to get back to town, she thought. This town was home, and home was calling her back. She stepped away from the rock and found her legs. She hurried into the grass to get her bike. Where was it? It's not here. The grassy area was flat, and she could easily see all of it up to the bushes. She had dropped the bike when she got to the water, but it was not here. The grass wasn't even very tall. Hadn't it been taller? She thought. Could someone have taken her bike while she was in the cave? Wait, how long was she in the cave? Dusty couldn't remember being inside. I walked up. There was a flash, then I stumbled to the rock. She couldn't even remember turning around. The bushes in the distance caught her eye. They seemed a lot less overgrown than she had thought they had been. But more than that, she could clearly see the path. On her way here, Dusty could remember feeling the bushes brush against her as she biked into the grass. She remembered coming up the path, bumpy and barely visible. I just came through here. It was 10 or 15 minutes tops. Now before her, Dusty was looking at a wide, well-worn path. A path that looked like it had been traveled regularly. She looked again at the grassy area. The grass was shorter because people had been here. There was litter scattered about, but it was new litter. A Coke can, bright and shiny, red and silver, candy wrappers, and a lot of cigarette butts. Dusty shook her head and continued up the path. This is not right, she thought. The path she now walked was not the same as the one that had brought her here. She did see tire tracks from bikes, but there were lots of tracks, and they were easy to see on the wide path of dirt. Dusty stopped when she came upon a discarded Doritos bag. She picked it up and looked at it. The bag was all wrong. It was red, white, and blue with a Doritos in an old-fashioned font. There was a section in the center of the bag with transparent plastic. It looked weird. It looked old, but the bag was new. This bag had not been here long. It hadn't faded from sitting in the sun, and it still smelled like cheese-flavored chips. Dusty dropped the bag and began to run down the path. She ran until she came upon the 2 trees that marked the turn from the main trail. There, she stopped. The main trail was here, only it was no longer paved. Instead, it was the same hard-packed, well-traveled dirt she had been running on. This is crazy, she shouted, just to hear the words aloud. I've got to go home, she thought. I must get back to Uncle Joe's. It's a long way, but I must get there. If it's still there, I think I'll be okay. But something in the back of her mind told her it was not okay. Dusty turned and began to make her way down the unfamiliar path back home, hoping with all her heart that home was still there. Dusty was breathing hard when she reached town. I really miss my bike, she thought. She was not used to this much physical activity. She emerged from the outskirts into a part of town she knew well, or so she thought. Dusty looked around. It was weird. There was a lot here that she remembered, but some of it was totally off. She had driven down this road so many times with her parents and gone this way countless times on her bike, the last time within the hour. The apartment where she had lived with her mother was 4 blocks away, so this was her old neighborhood. Yet looking around, The buildings she knew looked newer. Some that she remembered were missing, and some of these buildings were unknown to her. Even the street was wrong. Where are the bike lanes, she thought. She continued walking. On the next block, she came to a building she knew as the Happy Dragon Chinese restaurant. It was a place where she used to visit with her mom when they first moved to the apartment. They sold what they called the Happy Meal, which is a container stuffed with food for $5. It was cheap in feeling, but not real Chinese food. Where the Happy Dragon stood was now a convenience store called PDQ. There were gas pumps where fuel was sold for 79 cents or 79.9 as it read. Dusty stood on the sidewalk staring, watching as people drove up and went in and out. At the pumps, a guy in an old car pumped gas. The car was all squared off. Even the headlights were 4 glass squares. The thing is, the car didn't look old. All the cars in the lot on the street were older vehicles. Some of these cars almost looked new. It was noisier as well. People drove around with their windows open, all of them playing something different on their radios. Dusty was used to cars driving around with their windows up. You could only hear what someone else was listening to when it was the heavy bass thump from the hip-hop or rap crowd. Now she was listening to rock guitar and synth-heavy pop songs. Dusty was fascinated. Outside of the PDQ, a man was having an animated conversation on a payphone. A real working payphone, just like you see in the movies and on TV. She looked hard at the building, and yes, she could see the shape was right. Take away the gas pumps, cover up all the windows, paint the building white, and there it was. The Happy Dragon. PDQ was the dragon. No. The dragon was PDQ. Once. Dusty snapped her eyes shut and took a deep breath. This is crazy, she thought. Then she opened her eyes. PDQ was still there. The man in front hung up the payphone and checked the change slot. My phone, Dusty remembered. She reached into her back pocket and pulled out her cell phone. When she woke it up, an error message appeared on the screen. GPS signal not found, it said, and the area where the date and time belonged was blank. Dusty felt panic building within her, but a light breeze seemed to blow it away. And suddenly she was filled with the urge to continue up the road. She put her phone back and began to walk up the street again. Something ahead was calling to her. She did not understand it. She just knew she had to go. When she reached the next block, she heard a lot of noise. It was kids, a lot of them. There before her, just across the street, was what looked like a school. Dusty knew this as a big empty lot. She knew it well because the police came and talked about it when she was in school. They said kids would hang out there and cause trouble. They put up fences, but that didn't keep the kids out. Finally, something happened. Some kids got hurt riding skateboards, so they installed a bigger fence with barbed wire on top. There were no fences now. Instead, she saw a playground with swings and merry-go-rounds. There were basketball courts, tetherballs, jungle gym, and kids. Kids everywhere. Little kids, big kids, and quite a few adults. There was a building as well with a sign that read, St. Mary's Westside Community Center. Dusty crossed the street. This is it. Something told her this is where she was supposed to go. She walked onto the grounds. The adults that were around all had uniforms, but no one took a notice of her. I guess I'm just another kid to them, she thought, and headed for the building. When she opened the door to the building, there was a kind of pop, and a blast of cool air greeted her. She stepped inside and had to pull the door closed. Dusty hadn't realized how warm it was outside until now. The cool air seemed to stick to you in here. It had a smell to it. It smelled like water from a garden hose. It was nice. She could feel the heat of the day fade. The tension in her legs seemed to loosen. Then the feeling returned. The calling. She felt the urge to turn around. When she did, she saw a young girl staring at her. A warm wave of happiness filled her. and Dusty flashed the girl a wide, heartfelt smile. The girl smiled back with genuine care. "Hi, I'm Dusty. My name is Dusty. Dusty Dingleman." Why did I say it like that? Dusty thought. I never introduce myself that way. I hate saying my name is Dusty Dingleman. Kids just laugh. The girl didn't laugh. Instead, she answered, "I'm Molly. Molly Hendricks." Dusty's head began to swim. "Grammy?"